here we are again. So today I'm going to be talking on a one-to-one basis with Magnus Mighall of RA Smart. But before I do, I'm expecting Jack to join me, my co-host, who should be with me any second now. I'm sure he will just be popping up and popping in. So Jack, are you there? Magnus is in. Magnus is
in. After a few technical difficulties at my end, Colin, I finally pressed the right button. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. It's maybe my IT department, anyway.
Well, the Gill meets the Mig.
Yes, pleased to see you again, the Gill. How are you?
I'm all right, actually, mate. All the better for seeing your happy face.
Oh, thank you very much indeed.
So we're going to be talking about textile printing, but we're not going to be talking about this pesky little direct-to-garment stuff or this little sort of small little desktop printer things, are we? We're talking about the meaty gear.
The meaty stuff, the roll-to-roll, the get up and go, and the various options which are available, and the various processes which are available in textile printing. That's what I'd be more than happy to have a chat about, Colin. Yeah, absolutely.
There's an absolute ton of it, though, isn't there, Magnus? I mean, one of the things that I've always felt as a journalist in our industry is that, there are a lot of manufacturers that will say, here's the Okie Kokie 2000 and this other marvelous printer, and here's a dye sub, and here's a direct, just print this and start getting into textiles, and it's all so easy.
Yeah, there is obviously a little bit more to it than that, Colin, and it's a case of actually working out what our customers want to do with a textile application. As you say, there's a myriad of textile uses, and there are various digital printing textile processes, and it's a case of drilling down and actually finding out what a client wants to do, what they want to offer their end customers, and really advise them about which route would be the best for them, really dependent on the sectors they want to go into. And we're certainly seeing a crossover of these sectors, wide format customers wanting to get involved with textiles, and indeed our textile customers wanting to get involved with wide format. So it really is a case of drilling down, finding out what it is that the individual companies want to do, where they actually see the potential benefits of getting involved with textile printing, and really guiding them in the right direction. Because yes, it's relatively straightforward if you actually know and have a clear vision of what you want to do, but you could easily get distracted and end up buying potentially a solution that doesn't quite fit the bill. So there is a few things to think about.
Yeah, I mean, for example, you might be thinking, oh, I just want to get in and bang out some T-shirts, for example, but then you end up with a dye sub situation, and all of a sudden you're looking at technical clothing and you're thinking, oh, I might offer some cycling wear or whatever. That can be a minefield, can't it? Because you do need to understand what's going on. I mean, I'll never forget my first visit to RA Smart, and you actually took me around. It was many years ago now, but you took me around and showed me what went on in textile manufacturing, and I was my gabber was flasked.
Yeah, exactly that. So for someone who comes along and wants to potentially get involved with t-shirt printing as their main focus, whether you've already had the sessions about DTG, of course, that is one avenue to go down. DTG generally uses textile pigment ink technology for printing onto cotton t-shirts. But the other avenue is to look at potentially going down the dye sublimation route and utilizing synthetic materials, polyesters or polyester blends. And there are advantages and disadvantages with both. DTG is what it says on the tin. It's a direct-to-garment solution and allows you actually to print with a pigment solution on a made-up item. It doesn't necessarily have to actually be a t-shirt. It could be a cushion or other another object that physically fits onto the platen. But it's utilizing a pigment ink, which is a surface print.
Yeah.
Now, that has advantages and disadvantages. Whilst for dye sublimation, we're using a slightly different process. We're using a textile dispersed dye. And as long as you're using a polyester or high polyester content material, we can actually cover a greater range of applications with that process. So it really is, again, just going back to my original point, a case of actually finding out what it is that the customer wants to do. It tends to be, if people are new into textiles, they want to cover as wide a range of applications as possible. So it's worth investigating the different processes and what works best for them, for sure.
The polyester is a very interesting case in point here, isn't it? I mean, initially at the start of textile sort of printing, everything had to be sort of 100% polyester, and you know, you'd sell a shirt and the customer would sweat like a pig in it. Now the textile and the apparel sector has really moved forward, hasn't it, in terms of its own technology.
I think it's one of the biggest factors in us seeing where we are today in terms of digital printing, and why so many people are interested in it, and particularly interested in the dye sub process, actually, because of the range of polyesters that are now available. Polyester, going back, you know, as little as 10 years, it was perceived as the poor relation in terms of textiles. Yeah. And not perceived as a quality item. The textile manufacturers, the polyester manufacturers, have really reinvented themselves with the range of polyesters that are now available, and it's really driving forward the demand in dye sublimation systems. I mean, we have polyesters now that a lot of people wouldn't be able to differentiate from a silk georgette if it's going to be used for fashion, or you know, polyester velvets, which can really give the same sort of luxurious results that you'd expect from a cotton velvet for home furnishings, for example. And going back to the t-shirts, yeah, polyester textiles now very technically advanced in terms of high wicking, so removing moisture from the body and so on and so forth. So they really have got such a wide range of applications, and it's absolutely great to see. Not to mention, obviously, the environmental side of things, the fact that we're seeing more and more recycled polyesters. As we all know, and we're all seeing in the news, there is you know, a real debate on the environmental impact that textiles in general is having on the environment. You know, and there are pros and cons with polyesters as there are with cottons, etc. You know, cottons manufacture needs an awful lot of water in the process, and you know, that itself is having a huge impact on environmental issues. Again, polyesters obviously have been perceived as a non-environmentally friendly product, but that is changing literally on almost a daily basis. The range of polyesters that are now coming online, which is really fantastic, and we're seeing customers from a whole range of textile sectors, from the events, exhibition side of things, utilizing technical polyesters for light boxes or tension framing systems, all the way through to our customers in the home furnishing and household textile sector, who are now using polyesters which will mimic cotton linens and so on and so forth. So the choice out there is phenomenal now. It really is having a difference.
You've mentioned now a couple of different application areas. Okay, so let me sort of throw that proverbial hand grenade in your lap and ask you about, because I'm sure there'll be many people watching that will be interested in exploring avenues. So, for example, I mean, if I was a hobbyist and I was a keen cyclist, as in the illustration behind you, and I was interested in maybe offering a range of I want my own customers to be attracted to come to me for bespoke cycling wear. All right. I want them to design their own gear. But to be honest, I don't know enough about what I'm doing as a printer, but I understand the cycling industry very well. So I would come to you and ask for assistance. What do I need to get set up? Let's talk me through the process.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so what you're asking is not an uncommon scenario for us. We have customers coming to us on a regular basis, and it could be exactly that scenario. Literally, we have customers that might be involved in a certain sports sector, for example. It might be a little bit of a niche product such as rowing or cycling, and they have all the contacts within that area, and they're now actually looking at producing a range. So it would be a case of actually drilling down to exactly what it is they're looking to do. If it was cycling, for example, undoubtedly the process that I would recommend would be a sublimation process, compared with somebody else who might come to us for a fashion brand looking at printing onto silk, where we'll be talking about a different process altogether, which we can come on to.
Yeah,
and then it would be a case of actually looking at the potential size of the market that they're looking to infiltrate, the productivity levels, etc. Because we have solutions available, everything from a sample short run process all the way through to really high production levels.
Yeah.
And it isn't the case that you're actually compromising on quality by going for a machine which might not necessarily have the productivity. It's just purely actually getting the solution to fit the capital investment and to fit that particular level of productivity. And then it's a case of talking them through the whole process. You're quite right. It's not just the printer. They have to have the textiles that are going to do the job for them. They might well already have that sort of relationship with manufacturers of textile. If not, we would like to think we'll be able to guide them to speak to the right people. So if they need a 4-way stretch polyester lycra to do the job, make sure that they actually get that right textile in from the outset. It would be an absolute crying shame if they went through this whole process and then found out the actual textile itself did not meet the technical requirements. Yeah. And then it's a case of actually pinpointing the potential printer solution and then the post-processing solution. So in terms of dye sublimation, as we all know, we need a secondary process of heat pressing. Right. And they're available in different guises. We have flat heat presses and we have rotary heat presses. Rotary heat presses allow us to actually print length of textile, and then the garment can be cut out from that length, or indeed it might be might want to look at the possibility of a flat heat press, where you actually cut the garment before it's printed and then apply it in a flat heat press. And again, both of those applications, there are a range of products available to suit every level of productivity. We have twin platen presses, single platen presses in terms of the flat ones, and they could be to accept a front panel and a back panel, or we have these enormous machines where you can lay up several garments at the same time. And there isn't really a right and wrong in terms of whether it is flat or whether it is rotary for sportswear. And there is also indeed what we call a sports press, which is like a hybrid of the two. I'll give you potential advantages of utilizing cut garments, but on a roll-to-roll process. So we have a rotary press, but in front of that we have a application table, which can be a static table, or it could be a conveyor belt type situation, and that allows us to run in different modes. We can run roll to roll, so printer to paper to textile on a roll to roll basis, or we might already have the cut panels on the textile, so we have a roll of printed paper with engineered prints already printed on there. So imagine we've got the front panel, the back panel, the arms already on there, and we lay those cut panels of textile on there, and it's fed through the press. So it's a very, very productive way of actually of producing higher volumes of sportswear. So it's a case of what works for the individual client.
Let me ask you a question about, let's say, sportswear as an example. Okay, let's take cycling wear. It's very common, okay, but where do we get the patterns from? If I was setting up as a company to produce cycling wear, would I have to then start CAD designing outfits, or is there a place on the internet I can go to purchase,
No, it would be a case of actually you would have to actually have those designs of the product, whether it be cycling or whatever. The customer would actually have to generate those from somewhere. It's not a case that they are readily available. And to be quite honest with you, that would be a unique selling point for a lot of customers. Their design of product is something that they would want to promote. Yeah. So it's not a case that those sort of templates tend to be readily available. Now, as a starting point, there is nothing stopping customers going out and actually looking at some products which are already out there, get them, unpick them, and use them as templates. Right. I'm not suggesting that is necessarily the best way to start, but that is a possibility. But generally, our customers will have to actually have those design templates available to them to allow them to produce. Yeah.
It's almost like somebody's missing a gap in the market here, isn't it? It's something that can be sold. That's the product.
Absolutely, it is a product. And it's a key part of it. The actual the template, the garment cutting, etc. is something really to consider. The actual printing element is relatively straightforward when we come to particularly something like cycling wear. It's very much a technical product, and it's not the sort of thing that a general printer would normally go into dye sublimation for, to be quite frank with you. Yeah. The general printers will be more likely to be looking to utilize dye sublimation, perhaps for wall canvases or pop-up displays or light boxes. That type of product is a far more straightforward, easier process, to be honest with you, rather than actually looking at making full garments from the get-go. That tends to be our clients that do generally have a background in that scenario, or have someone to go to help them with the actual manufacture of the product.
Okay, so let's take another for example, if I may. So if I want to start using textile for backlets and for wall coverings and various other things like that, should I be using dye sublimation for that, or should I be investigating some form of printing machine that will enable me to run a textile material straight to it? Because that at least is taking one process out of it, because I haven't got to heat press the dye.
So if we are talking about printing direct to textile with a dispersed dye, there are two methods of actually getting that dye onto the textile. Indirect, which is more commonly known as paper transfer, the dye sublimation that we've just been talking about, where we actually print the dye onto a carrier paper, and then the secondary process of heat and pressure, where the carrier paper is introduced to the textile, put under heat and pressure, and the image is transferred onto the textile by means of the pressure and the high temperature. If we want to print direct to textile, we sell certain systems that allow us to do that, such as the HP Stitch range, which is a true hybrid machine to allow us to print direct to textile and dye sublimation. But we still require a secondary process. We still need to fix those dyes under heat, not necessarily pressure, but under heat,
Right.
to actually make those dyes color fast and light fast. And the important thing to remember that dye sublimation, we are actually dyeing the textile. It's not a surface print, so we are actually dyeing the textile, and it's the heat, or the heat and pressure in the case of paper transfer, that allows that process to be complete, and it is a requirement. You are right to say that potentially, if I was producing light boxes, there are other methods that could be considered for producing a light box, such as UV technology is a very popular technology that gets used on some technical textiles and will give very good results. And that does not require a secondary process, because UV printers, literally, we are fixing the ink as the media is going through the machine. But the difference is it's a surface print, and there are limitations with the UV technology. One of the main ones being that from a logistical point of view, if a client was doing a rollout of light boxes, and these light boxes were going up and down the country into retail outlets, etc., and it was printed via UV, the UV print would have to be sent out on a roll, because there is a danger that the UV print, because it's a surface print, even though modern UV inks have a certain amount of flexibility, we could see cracking and so on and so forth, or folds which will not come out of the textile if we go down that route. Whilst if we did that same process either by direct to textile or dye sublimation onto the same material, we can literally fold that product up, put it into a very small box, and ship it out with the modular framework. So there are potential advantages of going via the dye sublimation route. Generally, dye sublimation will achieve very good results at a faster productivity than UV printing. So there is, we are starting to see more and more customers wanting to utilize dye sublimation for processes such as light boxes, etc. Yeah.
You mentioned the HP Stitch a moment ago, which came out, about a year or so ago now it was launched, isn't it?
Yeah, probably a little bit more than that. Yeah, it's been a very exciting journey, and it's we are really pleased to be partnering HP with the Stitch range of machines. Yeah, so they actually have three printers in the range. There's the S300 and the S500, both of which are 1 meter 60 wide printers. And then we have the S1000, which is a 3.2 industrial machine. They all share exactly the same technology in terms of the dispersed dye that goes through there. They all share HP's thermal head technology, which is absolutely unique in the world in terms of utilizing thermal head technology with dye sublimation inks. And it's proved to be an exceptionally popular solution for a lot of our customers. We're very pleased indeed with the versatility of the system. All three of those machines are machines that are capable of printing both direct to textile and paper transfer. So they do give that versatility that a lot of our customers are looking for.
Yeah, you seem to have installed a lot, because obviously we're connected on LinkedIn, and I'm constantly seeing RA Smarts put in yet another HP Stitch machine to a customer. Yeah,
we've as I say, we're very pleased with the take up of this system, and I can understand why, because it is offering a unique solution, and it really is hitting the mark for a very wide range of customers, from the entry-level S300 all the way through to the industrial S1000. We really have something to meet all levels of productivity, from our university customers, education customers, and our smaller customers with the S300. Then there's the next step up to the 500, which gives us higher productivity levels of of over 100 square meters an hour in certain print modes, all the way up to the 3 meter 20, which has true productivity printing at 220 square meters an hour. So it's proved to be very, very popular indeed. We're very pleased with it. Yeah.
Well, look, Magnus, we've run out of time. I could sit and talk to you all day about this.
No way. We've not had 30 minutes.
Yeah, we've almost. Yeah.
Well, we haven't even talked about pigments. We haven't talked about reactive dyes, and we haven't talked about acid dyes, Colin. So we're going to have to arrange another meeting in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get you back. I mean, this is the problem, is there's so much, and it's such a big environment, a big topic, that there just isn't ever enough time to do it justice to really get into it. And I would have loved to have talked about all of those other things. But we will.
It would have helped if I got on time as well, wouldn't it, Colin?
Well, look, Magnus, I'm going to say thanks very much and see you anon.